This is Jacob from Wager Me This. I wanted to talk mostly about an NFL future today. So I'm sure all of you NFL guys, sports guys, are aware that Aaron Rodgers wants out of Green Bay. Well, the sports world and Las Vegas both think he's going to the Denver Broncos. So that money lines for the Denver for the futures for winning their division, for making the playoffs, for going to the Super Bowl, winning the AFC, they're all plummeting. You need to get on these bets now because he's going to the Broncos. On June 1st, Green Bay will save a bunch of money to dump him, and the reports are that the Broncos have already put together a really good package for him, and basically the deal is done. That's what all the insider reports are saying. Guys, you can't watch the mainstream media on this stuff because they're trying to spin it to make stories out of it for a few weeks. You got to look at the secondary media sources like Pat McAfee, hello George, and those people. But anyways, guys, get on that Broncos futures. If Green Bay, if Denver Broncos get Aaron Rodgers, that puts them right in the upper echelon of the AFC, and it should make them very, very competitive. Possible top couple team favorite. But anyways, so over to Craps, Mr. George from CY. How have you been? How have you been, sir? My wife has us doing this celery juice diet thing, and I actually don't mind how it tastes. It just tastes like celery to me, so I like celery. It's kind of different. I've been watching some of your shows, haven't been commenting as much. I feel like I jinx you a little bit. Seems like every time I come on there, you 7 out. You'll be on a 25 roller. Oh, Andrew. But yeah, it's weird. I don't really believe in it either. It just seems it's weird to me. I'll pop in at like roll 30, and boom, 7 next roll. I'm like, dang, bad omen. But I've been tweaking some things. I put out a video today on laying the 4 and 10 and how to get your don'ts to the 4 and 10. It works pretty well. Believe it or not, George, my shot from my last group of sessions, my shot is just wiping my don'ts off the table when I try to shoot in a controlled fashion. So to play the don't anymore, I gotta just randomly throw them. And I don't know if that's an indication that I've got better at shooting or what, but definitely it definitely seems like I can't dodge the don'ts as much when I'm trying to control the dice. And again, I mean, it could just be a run, where I'm just rolling well. And I could see it all fall to pieces next week. I mean, I don't put a lot of stock in it. One of the things is being good at dice control takes a lot of effort. Yeah, it can be crazy, but it seems like dice control takes a ton of effort, and even at the table when you're playing, even if you make it very muscle memory based, it still takes a ton of effort and a ton of focus, and it takes away from me focusing on the strategy. So to me, I kind of got to make the choice for one or the other. Either I'm going to play and focus on my strategy, or I'm going to play and focus on the dice control. Hello, Brian. And so I choose to focus on the strategy. So my dice control at like live craps tables, it definitely takes a hit because I focus less on it. But I do tend to do pretty well. I mean, I had a losing day last time I went, but that was because I was killing my own don'ts. It wasn't because I was rolling bad. I was just rolling bad from the way I was playing. Yeah. You know, George, I know you've heard me say it, but I don't actually believe there's very many people that can control the 7. I don't, because no matter what dice set, oh yes, I am. I'm absolutely excited. That's one of the reasons why I'm not opposed to moving to Colorado, because it opens the doors for me. But one of the things that I see, you're one of the people I've seen that I think can manipulate the 7 some, George, but most people, based in the idea of what they're doing with the dice, with setting the dice and being on axis or off axis, there's still 16% of the dice are 7s. So you're never really gaining anything, in my opinion, and if you're trying to beat the 7. So still, it works out to roughly 16%. Sometimes it works out to more of the combinations are 7. Like, for example, with the Hardway set, if you stay on axis with the Hardway set, you're actually becoming more likely that you roll a 7 than less likely. So it's just one of those deals that I don't think very many people can manipulate the 7 to a point that it matters. And I think it's based in the idea in the science of the dice control. Because if you just set the dice in front of you on any set, you're looking at least 1 7 on axis. Well, one out of 6 is the same thing. You know, 1 out of 6 is the exact same thing as just randomly rolling. So yeah, there are some sets that have 2 7s on them, you're right. But some only have 1 on axis. But that's why I think that for the huge majority of the population of dice players, there's no set with 1. So like something like, oh yeah, absolutely, you're right. Yeah, the Hardway set has 4 7s on it, right? That's right. It has 4 7s. You're right. Yeah, there's no way to roll it without, and that's still 16%. The 2 is 16% because that's on each dice, one on each dice. It just doesn't. That's why I look at dice control in such a different manner than most. Yeah, that's why I look at it in such a different manner, because what I see is that I do see a manipulation in the type of numbers you get, as opposed to just an overall beating of the 7. Like, I see that sometimes I'll get a certain throw. A certain throw might get me more of the numbers 6 and under, or more of the numbers 8 and over, And I do see that. I see that quite a bit in different throws, where there's a clear spike, consistent spike in one group of numbers. And that's what I think you should do as a dice controller, is attack that. Oh, hey, that's the truth, Andrew. If I could roll the dice and one of my dice could always come up 3, 2, or 1, I would never lose. I would never lose, ever. If I could roll the dice, if I was a good enough controller to make one dice come up a 3, a 2, or a 1, or a 1, 2, or 3, I could just bet it the opposite way. Because if you play the anything but 10, you cannot lose if a dice comes up with a 1, 2, or a 3. So if I could do that, if I could manipulate the dice in that fashion, to where I could get one dice on every roll to come up with a 1, 2, or a 3, I would never lose. The great part of that situation is that should happen at least 50% of the time. You even just randomly throwing the dice. So you already got a 50% bonus that you're going to get a 1, 2, or 3 on one dice 50% of the time. But it's still hard to do. I've tried and tried and tried. It's actually so. Yeah, I agree with that, George. I agree. If you're pretty good at it, hey Ken, how are you, buddy? If you're pretty good at shooting, you should only roll essentially just a few numbers. And I'm not saying you can't have those other numbers in there, but they should be very, very low in the amount of them that you're getting. But you're absolutely right, and I think that's the key to dice control, and I think that's what it offers. That's the advantage it offers, is that if you practice it, you are going to be able to get an idea of what you roll more commonly. But do I think you can overall beat the 7? Not the normal guy, not a normal dice controller that puts in time and effort, but doesn't do the things you do, where it's every day, 3 or 4 times a day. If you're not dedicated like you, George, I don't think you can manipulate the 7. like I said, the biggest wins I've ever seen all came off horn progressions. Guys just randomly throwing them, but betting the horn numbers on a progression. Biggest wins I've ever seen. It's because you get the big odds on those ones. Let's debug this. I'm not really sure what that comment meant, but okay. All I know is that from my personal experience at the table with live money on the line, a lot, multiple 100 times a year. Yeah, it does. It's all about repetition. That I've been at a lot of craps tables, a lot of times, and George, I'm telling you, I haven't seen very many people. That are as good of. I can count them on one hand. And I've been to a lot of craps tables. I've been to over 200 casinos. So, and I go about 200 times a year. So, I'm telling you, from my experience, from what I've seen, and I've been all over the place: hard tables, soft tables, deep tables, short tables, long tables. All kinds of shooters, different styles of shooting, and I haven't seen very many people that are on your level. So there's something to putting the effort, the time and effort that you put in. There's something to it. Obviously, you have broken it down to a science, which is great. That makes the most sense to break it down to a science like you have. And there's not very many people that are as good as you. And whether you think that or not, I think you'll see it when you go to Vegas. When you go to Vegas, you'll see how much better you are than most people. And when I say most people, it's going to be 95% of them. It's going to be, you're going to run into one or two guys that are even kind of good like you. Just kind of. Don't get me wrong. You're going to see rolls where guys get lucky, where guys get on a 20 roller. That happens. But from a consistency standpoint, from being able to repeat 10 roll shots, I'm telling you, you're better than you think. In fact, you're much better than you think. That's why everybody wants to shoot with you, George. All these guys that play really consistently, that play a lot, like Bird Dog and all those guys, they know they're at these casinos, and they see you. They see it. They see all these bad shooters, and these terrible short rolls. That's why they want to play with you, because they know that once you dial it into that table, all they got to do is put their money out there. And they know that. I know that. That's why everyone wants to play, because they know that they can win with your shooting ability. I mean, outside of the fact that we all just want to hang out with you. But from a craft standpoint, everybody knows and trusts that you're going to get it done. And so, because we've seen it hundreds of times now, over and over and over. We've seen it in live settings on LFC and all that stuff. You've developed a following of people that are ready to put their money behind you. Yeah, I mean, yeah, George goes on, and guys, these are live videos. This is live videos with other people live. So there's no doctoring, none of that. So I hate it when people say that crap anyway. That people, oh, you're just editing it. I've never edited a video in my life. And, but anyways, you see George will go on a 40 roller or hit the ATS. I mean, all these things that people see once a weekend. George, you don't see people hit the ATS very often. It's not like, not in the rate you would. It's not a thing. The ATS loses most of the time. Right, who's got time to edit videos? That's right. I'm telling you, George, all the stuff that you're able to do is unique. In the idea that you've developed your game to the point that you manipulate what comes out, and I know you can do this because I've seen you do it. Where when you need, it was an LFC, I don't know, 3-4 months ago, where you were playing and you switched over to roll a 2 to get a 2 to come out. You're trying to get a 2 to come out, and you made it happen. I mean, and that is unique. That's uncommon. There's not very many people that can do that. And so that's what I'm getting at, is that what you do is far more uncommon than you might think. Like, there's not a whole bunch of craps players out there, Vegas, anywhere you go, that are just going to jump up to the table and consistently bang out 10 and 12 rolls. They're just not. It's just not there. You just won't see it. It's not who's out there playing. The guys that are out there playing are guys hanging out with the fans, and they're wiggling the dice all over and barely making them down the table. And you'll see those guys. They'll take their time. They'll set the 3V. The shot will look correct, and it'll be 3 rolls. And what it is, well, they may understand most of the mechanics to it. They just don't have the reps in. So it's the subtle differences in velocity and all those things that when you put the reps in that you get down. Where you can consistently roll a velocity, a distance, and all that. That's it. A lot of times guys look like they might know what they're doing, and trust me, they do not. Or they're just not practiced enough. And this is a regular occurrence at most tables. Right. And that's exactly right, Andrew. And I'm telling you, George, this happens at almost every craps table. I see it every time I play. I mean, if there's 8 people at the craps table, 6 of them will be terrible at it. So that's why, like, what Brian and stuff is doing, where he's taking one group to one table, is brilliant. Because he's getting he knows that all these guys can play. And whether they have long shots or short shots at that time, he knows that consistency exists in that group. And so it's brilliant. It's brilliant what they're doing. What the Hawaii guys are doing, it's a brilliant move. Yeah, it's such a good move. Because, like I said, whether the shorts go long or won't. Oh yeah, we've seen you get, you're the only person I've ever seen get mad at rolling 8s. Yeah, you're right, Brian, and I've seen it repeatedly on your guys' videos. That's such a brilliant move. But yeah, George is the only person I've ever seen get mad rolling 8s. He rolled a couple of 8s in a row one day, and he was beating his stick on the table. And I'm thinking, what in the hell? The team matters. It really does. And then, like I've spoke on that a bunch about the team and about how, you know, the professional dice schools and all that, how they don't really tell you that's how they play, that they don't tell you that 5 of them or 6 of them go to one table. They don't bring that up in their short videos, but that's how they play. They show up. That way they're going to get a run of consistent shooters, and only one of them has to win. And because they're all going to bet it correctly. And there's make no doubt that that's how they play. And so, I mean, they just don't put that out there. But that's definitely how they play. And some of them do. If you ask them, like if you ask Heavy and stuff, he'll tell you. But most of them, they're not going to bring it up because they don't want to bring heat onto it. Is what one of the thing is. It's just like that. Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, George can be kind of comical sometimes on his channel, where he's getting mad at good results. But, so for example, I put out that Anything But 12 video, right? And guys started going playing it. Well, they started playing it, and the Cherokee Casino in North Carolina was allowing it. Well, guys showed up, started playing it. Well, they cut it out. You can't do it there now. And I feel like, you know, like I got a little feather in my cap there because I was referenced in it. Like they said, well, you know, the guy on YouTube showed this and we don't want to book it, basically, so they're not going to take this action. And so that's one of the things is that, guys, the casinos are paying attention to some of our stuff. Make no mistake about that. So, and enough of the YouTube guys are showing up at these casinos and filming in these casinos now that they're starting to pay attention and they're starting to make adjustments. And that's the first one that I've heard of directly. But I also heard that that some part of King Dice's group, they all loaded up on a table, and when they did, they dropped the table limit way down on them. So like it was like a $5,000 table limit, they dropped it down to $2,000. And I don't know where this was at. I heard this through a secondary channel of a guy that just emails me, and he said that he was there. So he said that it was their little group, and so they're getting conscious of what's happening on YouTube. So and guys like CEG and stuff are putting us really on the front out there with Vegas. And so while no one's trying to hurt our groups, and I'm not just talking about like the Craps Nation group, or, you know, because Heavy's got a group and Golden Touch has got a group, but it's starting to get, see you, George, it's starting to get more well known that this is happening, and I'm telling you guys, they're looking at it. So, and with like Brian, you're bringing a group of people, and you guys get a different treatment than most coming from Hawaii. You guys definitely get treated well. Yeah, that's awesome. But you guys definitely get treated really well. That's really cool. But I'm telling you guys, they're starting to pay attention to some of this. I mean, they literally stopped a bet that they didn't have a problem booking up until groups of guys started coming in to play it, because it's a unique bet. Laying the 12 was unusual. So they caught up to it, and they're like, oh, I don't think so. You're not going to bring 6 guys in here, everyone lay the 12, and sit here and win 5 or 6 times and then just take money. And that's what they were looking at. They're like, no, we're not going to do that, because you're going to be able to do this so consistently. Because, guys, laying the 12 and playing across is almost positive EV. And if you do the math on it, like you go look at it, it's almost positive EV. And so they're just not going to allow it. And I think it'll go away everywhere that does allow it. I think if groups start going in and laying the 12 or laying the 2 on a crapsless table and start hammering them, because you got to think, barring just a super, super unlucky run of dice, you're not going to roll that 12 very often. And so if you're staying, if you put, even if you can only lay $600, and that's giving you $100 to spread out over the other numbers, even if you have to play the horn bet at first to get the horn numbers, you could sit in there for 5 rolls, 6 rolls, and most likely you're not going to roll a 12, and so you're only going to win. And then you could wait till you saw a 12 or something, and then you could keep doing this, and you could actually have multiple sessions where you never even saw a 12, and it's actually very realistic. Yeah. But I see why when people started coming in to do it, and see the way I was told on it from 2 separate sources that both play at that same casino, that one group went in there the week before and they were allowed to do it, and I guess they won some money, and the next group the next week come in, a different group, and they said, no, we don't do that no more. And so it's because 2 reasons. One, if you're going to be consistent, you're going to be able to win with that a whole bunch of the time, because laying the 12, even just randomly chucking the dice down there, you're not going to have enough 12s to outweigh your winners on just most days, and most of the time it's just not going to happen, because it's 1 out of 36 chance versus 35 out of 36 chance. So I mean, it's just, you're just not going to have that many losers. And so if you're just going to stay for, like, if you went in there and you only stayed for 3 rolls of the dice, you played everything, laid the 12, only stayed for 3 rolls of the dice. All right, so you're going to win, let's say, an average of $20 per roll, or even an average of $15 per roll, let's say. All right, and you 3 rolls, so that's like basically $45 a day. You just went in. You're going to go a lot of days in those 3 rolls where you're never going to see a 12. It could go on years. I mean, that's how different that is. Except when you're playing field strategy. And that's why anything like that, anything where the game is being twisted and manipulated like that, to where the casino no longer has a real advantage, they're going to do things to change it. They're going to change limits. That's like I've said before, the only true unbeatable strategy is the martingale. Well, the casino, all they have to do to beat it is change the table limits. Once they change the table limits, you're eventually going to lose. So they can either make the minimum much higher or the maximum much lower, or both, and they can wipe out the martingale. Because if not, a multimillionaire could come in there and play the martingale forever and just never lose. Because no matter what, especially if you played it on like a bet like the field that has half the numbers basically, and you had an unlimited table with an unlimited bet and an unlimited bankroll, you're not going to go 5,000 rolls without a field number, you know what I mean? You're not going to do none of that. That's not a thing. So the only true unbeatable strategy is the martingale. Problem is they beat it without having to manipulate the game. They just change the limits. So that's one of the things too, is that, you know, anytime something gets developed that will cause them a lot of problems, they'll just beat it other ways. Yep. Yeah, martingale on that baccarat. I mean, baccarat is essentially a coin flip. So, I mean, yeah, and that's why those big Asian gamblers that play baccarat at that level, they almost all play martingale strategies. I mean, almost all of them, because it's just, I mean, whether people like it or don't like it, it's still the most consistent strategy there is. Martingale, if the table limits are what you need them to be. Now, Craps has killed the martingale just by the table limits alone, and they've done it. They don't have to worry about it. That's why the martingale is so terrible in craps, because it's just so hard no matter what you use. Even if, I know most people like to field martingale, but guys, to go 10 rolls of the dice without a field number is not uncommon. It's not uncommon at all. And most of the time, people's martingales will run out about the 7th roll. They don't even get to 10 rolls. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's just gambling 101 stuff there. That's what, guys, there's a lot of professional gamblers out there. It's way more than you think. There's a ton of them. And especially if you add in the sports betting realm, there's a ton of people that gamble professionally. And almost all of them have a couple things in common. Number one, they're super aggressive. Super aggressive. Because that's how you make money. Wow, the Doan is a contract bet at the table at the Horseshoe. Wow. Really? Is that only when you're shooting or when you're not shooting too? I didn't even go in the Horseshoe the other day when I was over there. I just went in the Gold Strike after the other ones. You know, there's some other things too. The hybrid table is the digital readout tables that you actually throw real dice on. Well, what I would say is, to be a professional gambler, it has to be the main source of your income, because I essentially a good part of my income comes from gambling or YouTube, which is essentially gambling, because that's what my channel's about. But it's not like, it's not nowhere near what I make at my job. So I'm not a professional. But so, like, for example, you know, poker players that are professional poker players, a lot of times they have other businesses and everything, but the majority of their money comes from playing poker, or comes from playing poker tournaments where they make money in, and their businesses are a secondary income. And so they're like a professional. And that's my goal, is I want to only be involved in craps and sports betting eventually. And that's kind of my goal in Colorado, is to have a location down the hill in Denver, right before you go up in the mountains, where I have a shop, where I have craps tables in a building, and where people can come practice and stuff. That's one of my intentions and one of my goals. I want to have a physical location, and that's one of my big goals, to have all that, where I do all my filming there. I give daily lessons there, and people can come practice. And I want to be right at the base before you go up the hill to gamble in the casinos. And that way, if you want to get on the bus, because there's buses that go up the hills and stuff, you can all do it from right at my shop. And that's kind of my goal. One of them, at least. One of my eventual goals. But that way, you know, people can come. They don't know the game at all. They can come and learn it. People can come and practice if you do. You can practice your shot. I'll be available to talk to if you want my opinion on something. That's kind of, I want to have my own place like that. I don't want to necessarily have a dice school. Yeah. I'll once I get there, it's one of the first things I want to do. So it's not necessarily a dice school like you think about the other ones where they teach dice control, because I don't think I can teach dice control. I'm not good enough at it to be a teacher for it. So that's why I don't ever try to teach it. What's up, buddy? What's up, Patty? But so that's one of my big goals when I go out there, guys, is to have that. And I'll get it. I'll do it. It kind of depends. There is some issues with it that I got to work out. Like, I don't know how Colorado's going to react to having a building full of craps tables. Obviously, there's some kind of arcade licensing or something that goes along with it. Obviously, you know, I can't have real money, so there'll have to be, I'm sure there's some kind of legal licensing and stuff there. And obviously I don't know it, but I will know it when I get there. So that's probably the biggest hurdle. You know, getting the craps tables and all that, that's just purchasing them and having the building. You know, none of that is a big deal. It's probably all just that licensing that's the big deal. Yep, it is. It's unique to the individual, that's for sure. Well, guys, I'm going to let y'all go. I'm going to grab some breakfast. Yeah, I don't want to be part of them, though. I love those guys, but I don't want to be part of them.
Thank you for holding.